Jeremy Mitchell, thank you very much for coming on 15 Minute Marketing. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me, and thanks for inviting me to such a beautiful place.
It's amazing,
amazing,
isn't
it?
Yeah, Corvonics Farm Studios, is it called, Shane? Something like that? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Home of the Cornwall Channel, and growing week on week, it seems, from here, which is great. But no, it's a beautiful day as well.
Yeah.
Bit hot in here, but nice when we get out again. But no, thank you for coming on the show, Joe. I really appreciate your time as well, because it's been a couple of years since we first met. I met you in the Rashley pub down in Charlestown.
With Clive, wasn't it?
Clive Kessel, yeah, who's a
that.
mutual friend of ours,
yeah.
I know. He's our non-executive director as well at Big Box Advertising now. Very, very knowledgeable guy, but obviously knows you very, very well. And obviously at the time you were director of marketing at St Austell Brewery, weren't you?
Yeah. So things have changed quite a bit. So last summer I hung up my pint of tribute for the last time and went freelance. So
huge step for anybody.
It was, and it was difficult decision to make, but it was definitely the right decision because I was getting into my 50s, so getting that stage of my career, and it's really about the chance of just doing what you love,
of course,
and going out and really wanting to test my kind of entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
And just mix and mingle and get more contacts, really.
Because you were there for years, what, 15 years, 16 years?
16 years,
wow.
Yeah. So when I started, St Austell Brewery was, family firm, still is a family firm, but I remember we were brewing 3 times a day.
Wow.
Sorry, no, 3 times a week when we started. And when I left, it was 3 times a day. So it had gone from, this small little brewery to a 24-hour... one of the most successful breweries in the UK.
I was going to say, huge brand. I mean, I don't know anyone who hasn't heard of St Austell Brewery, which maybe, props to the family for that, but also to you and your brand knowledge, which is something that I think I want to talk today about on 15 Minute Marketing, because one thing that you're well known for is your kind of strategic mind when it comes to putting together a marketing strategy and talking about brand.
Yeah.
So if you're happy, I can pick your brains on that and get some hints and tips for our lovely viewers and listeners. That would be awesome. So Shane, if you could hit 15 minutes on the clock, and there we go.
Okay.
So let's start at the beginning when it comes to creating an effective marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Where do you start in your mind when you need to do that for a company?
Yeah, I always start looking from the outside in.
Yep.
So you really need to start with the marketplace. Understand what's happening in the marketplace, what the risks are, what the opportunities are, and really find what do people want. What is that kind of little niche that you can own, that you can really shine in. So
because there's always going to be something, isn't there? As I suppose as a company, even if I suppose they're quite generic. If you look at the surface, there's always something different, I suppose, that they will do that their competitors won't.
Exactly, and even if the product line is similar to lots of other competitors, there will be a way that you can stand out from them, and it's understanding what is the way that's going to make that real difference.
Sure.
And give you competitive advantage so that people will pay for your product and choose you over the competition.
I suppose as well, is there an element of long-term thinking with that as well, like down the line, as to how will that brand evolve and maybe how you continue or evolve that strategy after a period of time? Yeah,
the great thing about marketing is it is integral to every part of the business. So, people it may surprise you to hear, but I actually think the finance department and marketing need to work absolutely hand in hand, because it's all about knowing what your strategy is, what your financial plan is, and then you use your marketing skills and marketing strategy to deliver on that.
Yeah, of course, because I suppose it's a very targeted role in a way, isn't it, marketing? Because you surely expect to make more money than you spend.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea.
That's the dream. Yeah.
And this question is always asked quite a lot, I think. How much, say I'm a coffee shop.
Yeah.
How much should I spend in my first, say, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years on marketing of my turnover, do you think?
Yeah. It's it's a very specific question.
It is,
I don't want to say.
No.
But you do have to, I would suggest that you invest a lot in the early days.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily financial investment. It's your time and your energy in actually identifying who the people are you want to reach.
Yeah.
What are your routes to market, and then how do you get famous in those routes to market? So,
sure.
So it's very much about linking up with the distributors. Who are you selling to, and making them excited about your brand, and then it's kind of like that push and pull. So the distributors are the push, and then the pull is creating that excitement and awareness and interest amongst your consumers.
Yes.
Just a few stats that might be useful. If you're looking at digital marketing, I know the recommendation is that you should be investing between 10 and 20% of your revenue, expected revenue, into actually paid digital marketing.
And that could be anything online to social media as well?
Yeah. So it's all about that paid search of being able to reach people. And, the good thing about the digital side of things is that you can measure the return on investment exactly, and you can dial it up, dial it down as you need.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's always really useful, isn't it? Especially with Facebook. I know that the analytics that they obviously publish and allow you to look at are really comprehensive. And allow you to be able to look at it. And same with kind of your website and other areas as well. We did a big podcast the other day, probably enough, with Shane talking about TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was obviously fairly new on the block. And we talked about whether we thought it had a place in business. And we're kind of, our conclusion to that was kind of the jury's out a little bit at the moment on that. But we can see maybe where it could fit in.
I think it does. It definitely. So, my sons have got a band, the Velvet Hands, and they've gone onto TikTok recently. And if you can create something that people want to share and comment on, I know they just did a post the other day, and it was Toby, a mock of Toby talking to his teacher when his careers advisor at school, saying he wanted to be a rock star, and that got 45,000 shares and likes.
Engagement.
And they said they actually got more followers from that one TikTok post than they did from last summer supporting. I can't even remember who it was. They were supporting some really top names, and the where was it? The Isle of Wight Festival.
Yes,
Wow, so they got more followers from TikTok than they did from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's certainly growing. Well, there you go, Shane. That's answered some of our questions there, isn't it, about TikTok? So going back to kind of brand to putting together kind of effective marketing strategy, because often I'll go off on tangents, as I'm sure Shane will tell you. Obviously, it starts looking out and what people's perceptions are, and where your niche is, and how you can. What's next? Is it internal? Is it running the brand throughout your workforce? Or?
It's I would keep it simple, really. So you're looking at the market. So it's called market analysis or an audit. It's just looking at what's going on in the outside world. Sure. And then you look within your business as well. And I expect you've heard of a SWOT.
Yes, I have. Yeah, SWOT analysis.
So SWOT analysis, it's old school, and you'd learn this at business school, but it's something that really, really helps.
So that's strengths, weaknesses,
opportunities and threats. So the strengths and weaknesses are where your business is strong, where it's weak, and being absolutely honest with it about it. And then the opportunities and threats are looking outside the company as to how you can make your living from it. And so from that, you then take the next step into defining, so what do you want to be famous for? Sure. And so in the hearts and minds of your target customer, what is really going to chime with them? Yes, that makes sense to me, And I suppose then you come up with the 3 M's come into play, because I hear a lot of people talking about these, obviously being, once you sorted your target market, you're then talking about your message and how you best target those people, and then you find the right medium to get that out. As I say, we talked about social media, but obviously there's many others. Obviously we do outdoor advertising, but that could be radio or whatever, really, I suppose. And that's why I never ask marketeers, what's the best medium? Because there isn't an answer to that question, is there? No. And it's, there's earned media and there's also paid media, and there's a place for both. Yeah. So, I was talking earlier about digital, and a lot of that is paid. but the PR world is as important.
Sure.
And similarly, whether it's billboard advertising in traditional media, it all helps to create that awareness and to drive interest in your business.
I suppose it's like marketing mix then, isn't it? And spending as much of your budget as you can in as many different mediums as possible that reach your target market.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear consistently marketeers talking about.
Yeah.
But brand's important, isn't it?
Absolutely. Brand is key. The in terms of the just before I move on to the brand, I think I don't know if you've heard of the 4 Ps of marketing, or sometimes the 7 Ps, but again, that is something in terms of the strategic planning, absolutely key. So it's the product, so what are you actually selling, the promotion, how are you marketing, place, what is your kind of route to market, what are the, how do people find your product, and then price as well, absolutely key.
Very
so
important.
It's where do you position yourself in the market? So you get all those things right.
Yes.
And then in terms of the branding, I know, and I'm babbling, and it is actually it is all quite. One leads
onto the other, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it is all quite. The thing is don't be scared of it. It is all quite straightforward.
Yeah.
And I would come back again to branding is think about your consumer or your customer. How do you want to make them feel? How do you want them to interact with your brand? What does it say about them as a person when they buy your product?
Definitely.
And that if you've got that in mind and understanding the persona and the motivations of your customer, then that kind of keeps you on track with exactly what you're doing with the brand.
I've heard as well, I mean, a lot of really good marketing, and when you get to that point, storytelling becomes really important. And telling a good story, whether it be about yourself and how you started your company, or whether it be your product and how your product came around. But people love a really good story, don't they? And
absolutely,
I think, I'm trying to think of a really good example. We talked about it before the show, didn't we? Actually, about the Carlsberg Advert.
Oh yeah.
That tells a story in a way that they've thought probably that they're probably the best in the world campaign, and they did a billboard. And they talked about they actually said probably the best billboard in the world, and then underneath they put a pump, because it's that story comes from the brand out. They've got some amazing beer. They wanted to make it accessible to people in the street so they can come up. I mean, it wasn't real, but it was quite fun.
Yeah.
And the story, I suppose, is that their brand is quite fun and willing to try new things. I suppose
it is, yeah. And Carlsberg, because I've worked with them quite a lot over the years, but I really admire the Carlsberg business. I think they've got so much of a story still to tell that they haven't necessarily told the UK audience, because I was really lucky to get the chance to go to Copenhagen and see their actual brewery. And I think it's like a really high proportion of their profits they put back into good causes in Denmark.
I didn't know that.
Wow. Like you see all the museums and the art galleries, they're all funded by Carlsberg.
Wow.
There's such a good organisation.
Well, that's storytelling that they haven't taken advantage of yet, is it? Yeah.
So, and then, like the storytelling for local businesses in Cornwall, I think we've got such a strength and opportunity because people are so interested in where we are.
Yeah.
I've just done some work with a company called Wilderness Kitchen.
Okay.
And they've just launched it's a letterbox brownies service. But if you have a look on their website, it was all about the story. So Justine, the lady who'd created it, what was her motivation for creating that business? Why did she move to Cornwall? And I just think it makes it. People want to know what the story is behind it,
don't they?
Yeah, and what's the story behind the brand? Yeah.
And that you've got a bit of a story coming up soon as well with a new brand that you're launching, aren't you? Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So over the last year, as well as doing freelance work and helping other companies, I've also co-founded a new drinks business.
Wow.
Which is called Upbeat Spirits Limited. Working with a chap called Matt Franks, who he owns Fluid Branding in St Austell. So between us, we've created a rum brand, a spiced rum brand, and it's called 8-Track Rum. And it's all linked to, what we want to do is link it to the music industry and to festivals. because I mentioned before my boys are in a band.
Yes.
And I've just seen, they've had such a tough time over the last year or so, and there's so much opportunity and positivity in the music industry. I just want to capture that and help that with this brand. So it's launching first week of May.
Wow.
And worked with Cornish companies to create it. So Kingdom and Sparrow,
yes,
design agency, they created a wonderful brand, and the product's tasting fantastic. And a proportion of everything that we earn from it, when we start making money from it, we're going to put into helping the music industry.
That's an incredible, because there's a really diverse and wide music industry down here, isn't there, in Cornwall? Yeah. And I think rum and those types of drinks go hand in hand with festivals, don't they? If you go to a festival, you'd expect to have a spiced rum while you're listening to an amazing band play with some amazing friends, and it's going back to that storytelling again. It's a really easy story to sell, but if you've got a good quality product from Cornwall, which it's a brand in itself and has many stories to tell, I can see that being a huge winner, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Yeah. And hopefully it'll help people create their own stories as well. So
definitely,
run with some friends and some good music. It's
well,
that's
what we've missed during COVID, isn't it? Things like that. Yeah. So a new brand coming out of COVID offering that is exactly what people are looking for, and that's again that niche that you talked about as well, which is great. So we've got about a minute left.
Okay. Cool.
And I don't want to rush you, but have you got a particular hint and tip that you could give to a company that is writing a marketing strategy right now?
Yeah, I would say keep it simple, link it to your financial goals, and make sure that whatever plan you come up with, you keep measuring what you're doing and coming back to it, because otherwise you can create a plan and put it on a shelf, but the way to make it work is to keep looking at it and make it a day-to-day part of your business.
Just kind of constantly evolving it and going with the times, if that makes sense. No, that's brilliant, because I think companies really need to know these things, and this is what 15-minute marketing is all about.
Okay,
is just getting information out to businesses so that they can help themselves and maybe get in contact with you as well if they need some extra expert help. And I know other guests have had people approach them about after coming on the show, which is great. So Jeremy Mitchell, thank you so much for coming on 15-Minute Marketing. I've really, really enjoyed our chat. I wish we had longer than 15 minutes.
I know, well,
but
we can carry on chatting now.
That's not the show.
We'll carry on.
Thanks very much.
Brilliant, thank you.
Cheers, bye.